Did you guys know that chickpeas are also called garbanzo beans? And do you know what you make with garbanzo beans? That's right, hummus. How great is hummus? You simply mix a bit of chickpeas or garbanzo beans along with some tahini, some lemon juice, a bit of olive oil, whatever spices you have in hand, you mix everything together, you blend in a food processor or a blender till smooth and voila, hummus. Right? No. I've been making hummus this way for years now, and what we produce is a super tasty outcome and people do seem to love it. Texture wise, it doesn't even come close to what I'm about to show you. Thanks to the recipe of legendary chef Michael Solomonov, I have seen what's on the other side, and friends, there is no coming back. With a few simple tweaks, you can take your hummus game to a completely new level, I promise you. We're talking hummus that is as light as clouds, velvety smooth, and super versatile. Today I'm showing you how to make Michael Solomonov's classic hummus recipe, but we're not stopping there. We're going to use his recipe as a base and make two incredibly tasty and satisfying spin-offs. And since I'll be showing you how to make incredible hummus using both dried and pre-cooked chickpeas, let me give you a quick breakdown on the pros and cons behind each option. While both alternatives can produce incredible hummus, there's two main reasons why you would use dried over pre-cooked chickpeas. Number one is price. Dried chickpeas will simply give you more bang for your buck. Likely double, if not more. So if you want to be extra frugal, this is a good opportunity to do so. Number two is flavor control. The process of preserving cooked chickpeas can sometimes lend a nastier flavor to the beans, which you will not find with the dried stuff. So if you wanted to have more control over your final product, then I would suggest you go with the dried stuff. The downside to the dry stuff is that you have to pre-soak them for about 12 hours, which is very time consuming, and sometimes we don't have that much time on our hands. Using pre-cooked garbanzo beans will spare you the trouble of soaking them, and is especially useful if you're in a rush. But bear in mind, you're probably paying double versus what you would get out of the dried stuff, and you might find some of the other flavors that I mentioned earlier. If you do decide to go down this route, or you're pressed for time, then I would suggest you buy the jarred stuff as opposed to the tinned ones. This way you can see what you're buying in advance, but also you can reduce the risk of any metallic or flavors in your beans. With all of this out of the way, let's go make some incredible hummus. To the kitchen! If you're using dry chickpeas, you want to soak 1 cup or 200 grams in plenty of cold water for about 12 hours. Overnight usually works well, but whatever lends to your daily routine best. When the 12 hours are up, you notice that your beans have absorbed a lot of the water and as a result have bulked up in size. Go ahead and give them a quick rinse and throw them in a pot with a teaspoon of baking soda and a splash of tap water. Place your pot over medium heat and stir everything around for a few minutes. The baking soda along with the heat are going to help break down the skins of the chickpeas and also tenderize them even further. When your garbanzo beans are looking a little roughed up around the edges, go ahead and cover them with plenty of cold water. Bring the water to a boil and then reduce to a simmer. Cooking dry chickpeas causes proteins to rise to the surface of the water. These are absolutely harmless and we'll be rinsing them off in a minute, so I find it easiest to swirl them back in the water and lower the heat. We're cooking our chickpeas till buttery smooth, which should take about an hour, but it's best to check regularly as you're going. Once happy with the level of doneness, go ahead, drain and rinse your beans. At this stage we're ready to make hummus, but let us take a quick look at the same process, only this time we're going to use pre-cooked chickpeas from a jar. The process is very similar to the one before, but it does not require pre-soak. Drain and rinse your beans from their liquids. Move them to a large pot. Add a teaspoon of baking soda. Rough them up over medium heat to loosen their skins and top with plenty of cold water. Bring to a boil and cook till buttery smooth. This will only take about 15 minutes, after which you can drain and rinse your garbanzos. And voila! Butter smooth chickpeas out of a jar. No pre-soaking and no hand peeling either. With that out of the way, let's finally make some hummus. Like I mentioned earlier, we're starting with Michael Solomonov's classic. His recipe produces a super light and creamy hummus by firstly emulsifying the tahini and then adding the chickpeas. We're going to start by combining a clove of garlic, the juice of 1 lemon, and half a cup of tahini in the bowl of a food processor. Start your process and begin to slowly drizzle in ice water, a tablespoon at a time. At first, you see the smooth tahini start clumping up into a bit of a mess, but as you continue to slowly add more icy water, it will become lighter in color and turn into a smooth emulsion. Be careful that you don't add too much water as it can become too loose. This will only take 4 or 5 tablespoons of cold water. When you're happy with the tahini sauce, go ahead and add your prepped chickpeas along with a teaspoon of ground cumin and a few cracks of salt. Blend for a few minutes until you achieve your desired consistency. Go ahead and check your hummus for seasoning and adjust for salt, lemon and cumin as desired. We are serving in a shower bowl and swirling around with a spoon to create ridges that will hold the customary finish of olive oil. Usually would finish with a dusting of paprika, but I prefer to skip it and cover with crushed toasted hazelnuts along with some fresh parsley. And there you have it, friends, an exemplary classic hummus that is perfectly balanced and as light as a cloud. But let's say you were hosting guests over and you wanted to maximize your efforts and turn this recipe into an extra dip or two. You absolutely could. Let's go back to the hummus base we made just earlier before plating. Add half to 1 whole ripe avocado, a handful each of parsley leaves and dill fronds, and lastly the zest and juice of 1 whole lime. Blend to your desired consistency, adjust for seasoning, and you're good to go. Serve in the plate of your choice and finish with a long drizzle of extra virgin olive oil and a scattering of toasted seeds and some dill fronds. This version is super creamy thanks to the fatty avocado, while it offers a great herby vibe and a zingy kick from the citrus. That's all great, but perhaps you prefer something a little different. Back to the base hummus, and this time we're adding 100 grams or 2 cups of sun-dried tomatoes along with a big bunch of fresh basil leaves. You know the drill. Cover and blend to your desired consistency. This time round you may need to add a bit of cold water to help the hummus run along, as the sun-dried tomatoes tend to make it slightly thick. Plate up and top with a good drizzle of olive oil and whatever extra your heart desires. I'm going for some sprouts and finely sliced basil leaves along with some smaller hand-picked ones. This is a personal favorite of mine. I absolutely love the aroma of fresh basil and how well it pairs with the sun-dried tomatoes. And there you have it, folks. One delicious, light and super creamy hummus base and countless of possibilities. A truly great exercise for your imagination. But let us taste. Texture-wise, the classic hummus just messing with you. Wanted to see if you were still paying attention. Now where were we? Texture wise, the classic hummus is an absolute last time, I promise. Let me fetch the right tools for this garbanzo feast. Oh, joking aside, I do enjoy my hummus with sticks of carrot and pepper that make it easy to scoop. Equipped with your weapon of choice, let us finally dig in the classic hummus recipe. Thank you, Chef Michael Solomonov. This hummus is super light and creamy, while all of the individual parts work in harmony and the whole shines brighter than the sum of its parts. Now for the herby avocado version. This one is really refreshing and extra creamy from the fatty avocado. I especially like the zingy vibes of the lime, while the dill adds a refreshing note too. Last but by no means least comes the sun-dried tomatoes and basil packed variant. I have to admit, I'm a sucker for sun-dried tomatoes and basil and absolutely love this hummus. It's reminiscent of a sunny summer Italian day in the countryside and is simply Moorish. But as per usual, don't take my word for it. Make your own.